proxies. Was there anybody else responding to anybody? And I have Marquez might have to duck out, so I have some absentee ballots from him, and those will come up if needed. So, it's 6:04 p.m. Call to order. Is there any audience member who would like to speak? Great. All right. So, the March 6th minutes. Any motion on these or discussion?
Did those just get sent out like today?
No, they were sent out. I think they may have been adjusted, but they were sent out at least the first time on Friday.
Okay.
Anybody have anything? Okay. Well, then I'm going to move to table them until we have something to do with them.
Motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Second. Motion to approve. Second. So can I get ayes on approving the March 6th meeting minutes? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 ayes.
Actually, I've got Marie's proxy.
Yeah. Any nays? Any abstention? 5, 4 abstention. Okay. So those are passed. SS5 application. Storm. Let me pull
So I
that up.
just sent over the document if you didn't want to see that.
Oh.
So this is just a little wrap-up discussion about SS Fab that Danielle and I went through a couple weeks back. So the numbers on the board, I got the overall funding secured totals from 16 and 17 were from information shared at SS Fab. So the fiscal year 2016 numbers, fiscal year 2017 numbers are shared with the board when they go through their decision-making process, just to give you a historical reference of how much the GPSC has asked for in the past. So those numbers you see at the top are what we were granted in those years. So obviously between 16 and 17 you see a significant fall off as a result of cuts. In this year we were able to secure a little bit of a bump. That bullet point, so fiscal 2018 you'll see $490,000 secured. That is including the $300,000 in travel grants that has been pledged for fiscal year 19 through 23. That's in part due to some of the lobbying that Danielle and I did, as well as Jude did in his individual capacity, not as part of SSFAB. For those of you who saw Jude's email briefly, that means that now the travel grants program does not need to go through the regular SSFAB application process, so it doesn't have to be. It basically comes off the top when the total amount that they can allocate for student services fee is set. They take things like think tank, whatever amount, I don't know what think tank is, but let's say it's $100,000 for the sake of argument. They take $100,000 off the top every year right away, and that goes to think tank. Then for us, they're going to take that total off every year for travel grants right off the top, and then whatever is left is what the actual fee advisory board has to go through and allocate to individual requests like ASUA. Do you have a question?
Yes. So is that $75,000 a year for 4 years, or is it split up into equal parts?
You know, I would actually prefer him. He would have better information.
It's 300,000 yearly.
Yearly. Okay.
For 5 years.
Review after 5 years. But
Okay.
it's supposed to continue to be higher.
Awesome. Thank you.
And so then just going through the individual applications that, as you may have heard, we apply for GPSC childcare, club funding, POD, travel grants, and REAP. And those are just listed in this document. So you see the bump. So in club funding, we were cut significantly, and I think that so we still were able to secure $10,000, but as we've heard in the previous meetings, that was because of efforts that Danielle and I put in on the board to negotiate to have a specific allotment of ASUA's funds set aside for grad students specifically. The reason why the club funding application wasn't getting a lot of favor on the board was because we weren't spending all that money that we were allocated. So that's, again, just look at, you need to look no further than fiscal year 2016. We were awarded $15,200 to spend. We spent $4,270. And that really, in terms of how the board looks at that, that's a really big negative mark, because that's money that they could have appropriated to another program like emergency medical services, or they could have given it to ASUA, or that, for us, that could have gone into travel grants, and we could have funded a little bit more. So moving on to POD, got cut down to $5,000. And the big reason that they felt that it was cut down, partially because of how much we'd spent, but also the they rely a lot on statistics of competitiveness, and they want to have metrics to gauge how many people you're actually reaching, how many people you're actually impacting with your applications. So for moving forward, they would like to see the competitiveness of the POD application process strengthened. Did you want to go, Jude, or did you want to wait till I'm finished?
Maybe when you're done. I just wanted to point out, with the club funding, GPSC has 15,000, not 10,000. That was the discussion.
Oh, it's 15
Yes.
in the earmark with ASUI?
Correct, that's right.
Okay.
It's 15,000, not 10.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Yeah, we've discussed that in the past. With travel grants, you can scroll down again.
Sure.
This is where we price our biggest gain. So in 2016, they awarded us 286. We spent all but about 4,000 or 5,000. Got cut down to 153.5, and we were able to get that bumped up back to 195 for next year. And then after that, so fiscal year 19 is when the $300,000 that we discussed earlier kicks in. Again, scrolling down, REAP also was cut down, but overall this is, in my estimation, a success for us given how the budget was very, very tight this year. Obviously, there's been a large push, and now we have seen that there's going to be an increase in the student services fee. And so this was just, there was a lot of mouths to feed in the room, and I think Daniel and I did the best we could to get to secure that money not only for grad students but for GPSC specifically in our capacity as the GPSC reps.
I
I'll
would-
refer to whoever's next.
Did you have anything to add, Manu?
Yes, I would just like to say, one of the days I had to proxy for Storm at the meeting because he wasn't able to attend, and at that day, we had initially started the allocation process, and basically the other members said, we only want to give GPSC $275,000 max, period, end of story. We were able to get $290,000, that's pre-Melissa Vito money, 100,000, and not including the child care grant, because as we all know, that goes to everybody. So in addition, we were able to get them up above the amount that they had originally said, the rest of the board had said that they wanted to allocate. And additionally, they did ask us to pick. They said you have many application requests, not including child care grant. So we want you to prioritize what you think graduate students think is the most important of these services and programs available. And we said, well, the thing that we've heard again and again this year from people on the council, from graduate students in our constituencies, that you have told us that your students are worried about was travel grants, so that's the thing that we prioritized. And I do think that next year REAP will be able to bounce back. I say that because I have faith that the person who will be in REAP next year in charge of the program will do a really great job of marketing and growing the program, because they wanted to see more applicants, not just more marketing.
Yeah, Storm, you still have the floor.
Yeah, I apologize, and I'll see to you because I know he's been waiting. I just wanted to point out that GPSC Childcare asked with $100,000, and we were awarded the full amount, which is a rare occurrence on SSFAB. Just, I would say, off the top of my head, I don't think we had more than 5 tops out of 30 plus applications that received
Yeah.
full funding. Everything gets hit with a scalpel in this thing. So that was a very fortunate award for us as well. And I'll see you to Jude now.
Okay, so the Jude and then Jasmine.
Was my back out?
Did you have anything else?
Nothing really, but
Oh, sorry, I thought
let's
you
just say
had-
that you guys did an amazing job. Thanks for your efforts.
Oh.
I was going to point out regarding childcare, we're also working at the administrative level to have more like an administratively set aside money for childcare so that GPS will not have to go back yearly to put up applications for that. And I think we've gotten far with that so far. It's likely that that will happen for this fiscal year, that's 2018 fiscal year, but if it doesn't happen, most likely next year we'll not have to put up an application for it.
Yeah, and this was a very good.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the thing with that is we still have to prioritize the things that we didn't fund or that we didn't fund as much as we wanted to on SSFAB. We haven't gotten there yet. And we, as of right now, are operating under the assumption that we will have to spend this money on child care grants. But if we don't have to, we will be suggesting things to prioritize. So if you all wouldn't mind, I can send out the link to the proposals and you can see, I don't know if it shows up in the system yet, but you can see the other proposals at least. That's public information, so if you see anything that you think might be an interesting program to fund, you can just say, hey, we think this is an interesting program, it might be really useful, and we can recommend that to the board. I think that that would be really great. You can also share it with your constituents. I can send you a link to the SSF page for that. And I was also gonna say, I was gonna also encourage
I mostly just wanted to say, like, yeah, you guys did a fantastic job, so thank you very much for getting us more from SSFAB than we had hoped.
I'll also chime in and say thank you about all of you for doing such a great job. We appreciate your efforts. Does anybody else have any questions about any of this? Great, awesome. Thanks, guys. So, the NJ GPS labs briefing.
Great. So I sent out a document last night. Daniel, can you pull that up or
Yes, probably.
just for
Continue
the
to
sake of
speak.
having it pulled up?
Continue to speak.
I'm hoping that everybody got a chance to look over it. I know I sent it out last night, but that was actually earlier than we had anticipated sending it out. As we had promised at the last GC meeting, we said that we would send out the
Yeah, but I know.
notes within 2 weeks of returning, so we actually got them back the same week that we returned. Just for transparency's sake, I'm saying that. Basically, this is a rundown of everything we did at the conference and on the specific days, and the specific things that we talked about in our meetings with reps. In total, I put this at the bottom, wherever it may be. Yeah, in total, Jesse and I were able to meet with 3 representatives, and there were all 3 Arizona Public Universities present, representatives from all 3, and we were able to in total meet with 7 reps and 2 senators, so 9 total. So of that, Jesse and I met with 1/3. Part of the reason for that is some of the times were overlapped, so we couldn't go, like the McCain time was at the same time as the McSally time, and we thought it was important to go to the McSally meeting because she is our district rep, one of them. I'm not going to regurgitate everything that's in the notes for you all, but if you have questions, I'd be happy to answer. I will also say what I just said at the EV meeting, which is one of the best parts of LAD, I think, was the collaboration that we experienced with the other representatives from the from the Arizona schools, which it's kind of silly that we had to go all the way to DC to have this like meaningful conversation and collaborative experience. But I think that a lot of really great things are going to bud from that, and including Jesse had an idea to have the governor and also like the mayor of Tucson, Phoenix, and Flagstaff issue proclamations for Graduate Professional Student Week. So that's in progress. Also, we're working on getting basically the equivalent of Cats at the Capitol or Wildcat Wednesday set up, but including representatives from all 3 institutions, so NAU, ASU, and U of A, and that will be either on a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. Jesse's working with Mike Sistak on that. The reason for that is we haven't really had the best attendance for those, and also we think that since part of the thing that we're asking the state for is 50% tuition funding, that it would make a stronger statement if we had representatives from all 3 grad organizations at once at the Capitol. I'll let you know more about that. Actually, Jesse will let you know more when she has that.
While you're working on getting proclamations, could you possibly see about getting us a state flag that's flown on one of the particular days as recognition of GPSU's great work, and the same for the other universities? Because I know at least that's one of the perks that reps and senators and the governor get to hand out to people.
Okay, yeah. So maybe one day each of those weeks get us a state flag.
Not just pick a little certificate that says this flew on the state capitol
Yeah.
this day.
Also, we are in talks with Grijalva and McSally's office about doing potentially a town hall for graduate students here on campus. Might be open for all students, but we had a suggestion because I know McSally especially has had some pushback from the community at large. So we made a statement that maybe if it was with a CAT card access, so that way she would know it's students, not just random people from the community, that it might be better, and that there would be specific agenda points that we would be requesting her help with. Another thing that I wanted to note about LADs is that I did not say in here, is that I think that in the future, it was difficult to go to the representatives and say this is what we are asking for, because, for example, with the Safer Campuses issue, we didn't have a specific bill to say we want you to sign off on this, or we there was nothing for us to say, and that's partially in part related to NAGPS. It's no fault of Sam's because she just came into the position very recently. But at the same time, it did make it difficult to go into their offices because it was just more having a conversation and not really being able to say, this is what we want you to do. Because we can ask them to do anything, but if we don't have specific things, then of course they're just going to say, yeah, of course I want campuses to be safer. Of course I'm against sexual assault and harassment. I mean, most politicians would agree that that's a bad thing. But for the health insurance, obviously there's the new AHCA being introduced right now, but the thing is it's still in drafting stages, so there really wasn't much that we could ask for there except for we'd like to maintain some of the existing provisions under ACA. So that's kind of the angle that we took on that because it was the best we could do with what we were given. If anybody has any questions right now, or if you have them at the next GC, we would be happy to address that. And I will reiterate that I think that this could actually be a really great, it would have been really great to have taken more than just the two of us, but the budget, since we cut it in half, it just really didn't allow for it.
Yeah. You got the total amount expended somewhere?
No, because I don't have Jesse's numbers yet.
So when you guys
But
get
that
that,
would be-
you'll send that around.
Yep.
And then the second thing is if anyone has any questions later, could they just email you and Jesse together?
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Jim?
Yeah, Maria was on Skype
Okay.
to say something.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Now we can.
Okay. I just wanted to say I really appreciate that Danielle took so much time for a thorough explanation and for keeping us on task and engaged and, being productive. I think it's wonderful, all the things she mentioned, and I hope we can be more engaged as a general counsel as well.
Thanks, Maria.
Anybody else?
I'm gonna mute you again.
Okay. Thanks, Danielle. We appreciate all your
And
efforts.
I will send that budget update along with the updated out-of-state as soon as possible. There is the Western Regional coming up, but I don't know if we'll have enough money to actually send. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, it's in there, information. I don't know if we'll have enough money to send somebody, but worst case scenario, we could maybe swing it. Again, it's short notice. They just started planning that actively. I didn't receive this information until at LAD. So that's part of the problem, right? If you're only getting something less than a month or around a month out, it makes it very difficult to plan airfare and things like that at a good rate. Obviously, the hotel rate is not bad at all, especially since we would really only be spending 1, maybe 2 nights there. But it's problematic because airfare, which we can look at and see, but depending on what's left, if somebody does want to attend, I don't see a problem with that if we have no money left for it.
Also, there's no problem with just partially funding based on whatever we have left as far as I'm aware. If anyone wants to go to Spokane, I hear it's lovely, then they might
It'll be
pay
90
parties.
degree days, right?
Yeah. So anything else?
That's all for me. Thank you,
Awesome.
everybody.
Thank you. Okay, next item is next year's budget. Let me pull up. Here we go. Okay, so let's start down here at the bottom. So we're gonna try and figure out, for right now, based essentially on this year's budget, as far as we can tell, we're $75,000 in the hole for next year, which means we have to cut things in various places, and there are some options for that. So Jude, would you like to go through some of your cost-cutting possibilities?
I don't know any longer, but I think one of the big things I want to point out is looking at our budget. First of all, there's been significant changes from what I sent out to you all last night. There was some money we thought that we were going to have next year based on the document we got from last year, but it appears that that money won't be there. So you'd have noticed that the total budget would have has dropped from about $1 million to about 900 and something thousand now. With that said, like Daniel rightly pointed out, we're already $74,000 in deficit, excluding the new project that was proposed initially. We have to take all of that away as well. Now the goal is to find ways or areas that we can cut down on costs. One of my proposal, or one of the things I am proposing to the council, I have noticed that we spend a lot of money on personnel costs as an organization, and that's just the truth. I know we want to help grad students and provide GA shifts as much as we can, but I think it's also necessary that if we're going to pay a GA, it should be for a work they actually do. And honestly speaking, as someone who has been both EVP and president, I personally do not think that GPSC needs a GA position for the 2 vice president positions. It might not be what everybody may agree with, but I think that we do not need to spend that much going forward. So one of the proposals I have on the table is to take away those GA shifts from both the AVP and EVP, take them back to previously we've had them as just a stipend position and we've had just 1 VP, but now we have 2 VPs. We can still pay them stipend positions, have 2 VPs and get the work done, and not have to pay GA shift. That's one proposal on the table. The other one was going to increase salary. Another motion on the table as well is, and everybody may not like this as well, but cut down on the stipends for other EB positions. And part of the reasoning for that is, while I think our executive board members do a great job and they do a wonderful job, the honest truth is we cannot actually afford to pay them hourly rates if we wanted to do that. And the rate we have up there right now, it's not an hourly rate, it's more of a compensation. Now, if you try to compare that with what we pay our reps, who to some extent do almost as or just close enough to what some of our EB members do, I think it's just a very wide gap. So I'm proposing cutting that money down from 3,000 to 2,500. For example, and then I'm not trying to pick up on you, as assembly chair, mostly what you do is host meetings and also chair one of the internal committees.
Sure.
So not necessarily any major difference from what the reps do. So those are 2 proposals I have on the table right now. Cut down on those first stipend to 2,500. Take away the 2 GA shift from AVP and EVP.
Okay, so it was going to be Jasmine, Jim, and then Torben.
Regarding the GA stipends, while we used to have a stipend position for the vice president, we also had a chief of staff, which was a GA-ship as well. I don't think we should go back to having a chief of staff GA-ship. I do think we should probably keep at least 1 GA-ship vice president, because mostly, and I've already said this before, so I'm not going to go into all the details again, but basically when it comes to stipend positions, we have a much higher turnover rate than we do with our GA-ships, and it'd be really nice to not have to keep finding new VPs midway through the year. So that would be my recommendation, would be to only remove 1 of the GA-ships on the vice presidents instead of both.
Also, combine.
Yeah, the other option is 3 combined.
Yeah, or one other thing on the executive board's stipends for the stipend positions. Like, I've been secretary and I've been assembly chair, and when I was assembly chair, I tried to get my stipend cut to 2,000, and the general council wouldn't let me. I'm going to advocate for cutting these stipends down to 2,000 instead of 2,500.
Okay. It'll be Jim, Torbett, Dustin, Jared. Okay.
Yeah, probably our most practical ways of cutting funding here would be to back off on what we're spending on events. A few years ago, as Zach mentioned, when he was president, we spent a lot less on events in years past, and we still had good events. Per event, we spent a lot less on graduate orientation, we spent a lot less on showcase, and so on and so forth. So we could cut back a bit there. Also, we've got some administrative positions that, now it's great that we have an institute director, but, maybe we should have the institute director do less work, save $1,000, cut that down from 2,000 to 1,000, have him do half as much work. A development administrator right now is making 4,000. Can someone refresh my memory on what the development administrator does?
Sarah or another team?
Typically, the position is expected to do fundraising for the
Right,
organization.
and that's their another job now. So, so if we're paying someone $4,000 to bring in money, it doesn't seem, I don't think we brought in any money. So, I don't think we brought in more than $4,000 in exchange for paying $4,000. So maybe that's the position we want to get
For clarification, those positions are hourly paid, so we pay them based on how many hours they put in. So if they
Sure.
don't work at all, we don't pay them.
Yeah,
But that's the maximum.
But again,
Okay.
in terms of suggestions for Craig, that would give us, $4,000 right there. Additionally, we might want to look kind of carefully at our operating budget. If you scroll down to that. Right now, we have quite a bit of money allocated for operations. The operations issue has been quite perplexing for a couple of years now. Because last fiscal year, we weren't really keeping track of what money was being spent in what categories. We don't actually know how much we spent last fiscal year on operations. We haven't really been keeping track this year either, but I think this year, because we've done some consciousness about it, I think the business office can give us, hopefully soon, a breakdown on what we actually did spend on operations. So we might be able to look at that closely and make some hard choices on what to cut back on. The fact that we're spending $5,000 on office supplies, do we really need to spend that? Do we really need that? We're spending $5,000 on SASG support. Have we actually used them for anything? That money is nominally to fix computers and to get our website up. Website's up now, so maybe we can save $5,000 by cutting that. Or we might be able to negotiate less support with SASG and maybe get a $1,000 service contract and we do less. So those are just a couple of suggestions on where we might be able to save some big chunks of money.
Okay. It's Torbett, Dustin, Jared, Rahul, and John.
Sagen.
Sagen. Okay. Yeah. Torbett.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna have a list of responsibilities and the hours people spend in these positions. It's just kind of hard to vote not knowing that.
Which positions?
Didn't we talk at one meeting how people were gonna tell us how much they work or what
Yes.
they
It
do?
was just
We did.
suggested, I don't think.
Okay.
I think it might have been voted on, but no one sent out what they do.
So I mean, I was kind of in the blind on this stuff.
Okay. I'm
Why
gonna
don't
say.
everybody send that out next time?
Well, because we could if we want to, but I'm gonna say that as someone who actually has to spend time doing stuff, I'm not gonna do a very good job of it. Anything else, Torbett?
That's all.
Okay. Dustin?
So I have a couple of things. So first of all, is there a way we can pay for travel grants director and REAP director from the money that we get?
It is actually, if you check what goes into that particular line item.
But the money is coming, the compensation, right? Is
Yes.
counted. All
Uh,
those numbers.
yes, but it's being counted as from those funding sources.
Yeah, but it's not being subtracted from. It's being counted overall.
I don't think that's
Total expenditure.
confirmed yet.
Right. If you look
Yeah.
at the total number for GA compensation, it adds all those numbers up. It
You're
doesn't.
correct.
It's not like it doesn't add those numbers up.
Fascinating.
So, okay, so the travel grants and the REAP and
Wait,
Just put them in a different column, travel grants
I'll
for
fix it.
REAP and events, or not events,
It's
sorry.
basically you don't need to
Yep, you're correct.
cover those two numbers.
okay, well
And then-
that saves a lot of money.
And then secondly, I kind of don't feel comfortable paying an events director $30,000 to manage a $70,000 budget. I don't know.
That's largely tuition remission.
Yeah.
They're getting paid
$30,000?
$16,000
It's
a week.
a GA ship.
Well, I don't feel comfortable spending $30,000 for somebody to manage $68,000.
Okay.
I have to say that.
Rahul? Or is it Jared? Jared? Okay.
I believe it's me. Yeah, I'd like to just ask for point of clarification, Jude, with eliminating the AVP and EVP positions. So is your logic behind that just simply we don't have enough money, or they don't have enough to do to justify the money?
A little of the both.
A little bit of both.
We don't have the money, one, and two, the positions do not require that amount of work. In my opinion, I've been EVP for several months, if I became president, and I thought that honestly, there isn't a need for the chief position because you don't do that much. You don't have to work 20 hours every week, and those in the positions right now can attest to that. You don't always have to work 20 hours a week. That's my experience with that.
Well, I do spend a lot of time editing documents and things like that too, to get them ready to go out for you. So I work very closely with you. So basically everything you're doing, I'm doing. I've sat on pretty much every committee that you've been sitting on. And I also didn't take my salary this year. So I would say the person, my part of the GA salary would have been about 10,000, 11,000 plus the tuition remission, and I didn't take that. We don't get the tuition remission back, but I think that I do work 20 hours a week for this job.
Well, I think
plus
we're getting
my
off.
GA.
I think we're getting off track. So more of what I was trying to get to the point of here is not to suggest that anyone's not doing their job. I think it is a matter of note to say that you can always increase your work to fill up numbers, and you can always either like spend more money on things that you shouldn't be spending it on, or not spend as much money as you should, as much money or time as you should be spending on. So that's really neither here nor there. My more point of bringing this up, I think, was some of the other my esteemed colleagues on the council mentioned before, that we kind of have a spiraling amount of administrators and different people, and frankly, we don't know what a lot of what they do, as was stated before. We don't know what these people do, or when they do stuff, such as the events director gets paid half of his budget is basically his own like compensation package as a GA ship. So would it be, Jude, do you think it'd be, if we could we combine some of the staff positions perhaps and roll them into the AVP, EVP positions? I, for one, personally, and I would surmise that the members of the council would be more comfortable having people who are elected to positions be paid to do jobs versus people who are hired to do jobs and who aren't really, at the end of the day, they're responsible to the administration, they're not responsible to this council and to the electorate.
I think it's a tricky thing to do, and partly because, one, trying to combine all of those jobs into one single position, you will likely get to a point where people will not be very efficient. If I'm supposed to be the legislative affairs director, as well as being the marketing director, and possibly development administrator, I get to a point where I may not do each of those jobs very efficiently. That's one part of it. Another part of it is, you might be taking away the opportunity some people have to make just a little bit more extra cash, even if it's just $2,000 a year. You might be taking away that from there. And I think having some of these positions separate from the council, it's not a bad idea. Personally, that's what I think. But if people think otherwise, it's open to debate. But I don't think it's a bad idea having some positions that are outside of GPSC council members. And that's it. Please go back to the $30,000 for RIP and travel grant. I think that was already subtracted, but I might be wrong. If you go down to the last yellow block, you notice that there was, because this was put from last year, the formula already took away 30,000.
Does it?
Yeah, click on the formula.
But
For
This one?
both, no,
This one.
research grants and travel grants. Each of them took away $30,000 somewhere. 101 and 102.
Okay.
yes, they each subtract the $30,000
Yeah.
stipend.
So I
But if you look at total expenditure, that box up where all of the stipends are being included, box 25, that one was still including the 30,000.
no, well, let's move on. I'm just going to try
Yeah.
and move things around.
So
We'll look at it later.
Let's. Okay. Next it was Raul.
Well, my final thing
Okay,
just
sorry.
to say was, didn't Kevin say he was going to come in and present to us one of these meetings? Correct me if I'm wrong, but he hasn't done that yet.
He's been sending out monthly reports, and I've spread them out as much as I've shared them. If you wanted to come in, I think the problem is that Mondays aren't good for Kevin. I don't know.
Is it a scheduling thing? Do you know that
yeah.
for sure? Or is that speculation?
I think it's a scheduling thing. I don't know for sure. But if we can have him come in and talk to us, but if you check your emails, he's given pretty comprehensive reports. If anyone has any questions, you can probably just email him directly.
The last one was sent out on March 7th, if that makes
Yeah.
it easier for you guys to find.
So, Raul.
I was gonna ask something, but I'm gonna leave it at the end because I wanted to get into this discussion about changing positions. When we were discussing term limits, one of the reasons to not have term limits was that we needed maybe institutional memory.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that part will be fulfilled by the people that are doing administrative jobs that are not elected. So if we made elected positions to now administrative jobs, we will lose that institutional memory that we were discussing. So I think that at least we need to see what positions only do administrative things and that don't require having a vote here, so that these people know what they are doing and they can keep working for years here for GPSC, and they will be the ones that keep that memory. That's my opinion. The other thing is that if I understand correctly, you said that Yasmin said that the positions didn't used to be GAs, that they were just stipends.
One of the positions used to be just a stipend.
So what was the reasoning to change it to a GA? It was a money thing, an administrative thing?
The people who were in the position consistently said over the course of a few years that the stipend was not enough for the amount of work they were doing.
Okay.
So that is why it was turned into a full GA position.
Anything else, Bo? It's gonna be Jasmine, then me, and then Jay said.
So from Sajin, she just also agrees with changing the stipend to $2,000 on the stipend EB positions instead of $2,500. From Hannah, she agrees with what Torbett said, I believe, regarding wanting to understand what each executive board member is doing before we decide whether to change their stipends, because we don't have enough information right now.
So to respond to that, government document is pretty clear on what executive board members are required to do. Additional responsibilities that people do most times are maybe just out of passion. I mean, there are things I've done that are not my responsibilities, but I've just done them because I want to. Doesn't mean that I should be paid more, like Jared said exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So on paper, maybe the executive vice president position looks like it's 20 hours a week, but your experience was it wasn't?
On paper, the executive vice president position, I don't think it's up to 20 hours a week. But like
Okay.
Daniel pointed out, there's some things that she has been actively involved in that are not necessarily her responsibility.
And I'm
that
running the
makes her
same thing.
work 20 hours
Also,
a week.
we made the suggestion to cut, you'll notice that the marketing administrator is not listed there. We thought since we didn't have that person in place right now, I've absorbed most of those responsibilities and Carol's been helping out with some of them as well. But I've done most of it, so that's a cost savings there in the EVP. Part of the responsibility is chairing the marketing committee, so it makes sense that we would just not have that position.
Sorry, for those of you, I should just do this. We've zeroed out the marketing administrator because, as Daniel said, we haven't had one for a while and it hasn't actually mattered.
So we decided to just cut that.
It'll be Jasmine. You were next, right? Or you did?
This is from me this time.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, hold on.
yeah.
I'm gonna go.
Sure.
I want to also say that $2,000 for the executive board seems perfectly fine. I totally understand why the reasoning behind reducing the amount, the gap between executive board members and representatives. As I've advocated for in the past, I think that this organization would work better as a volunteer organization, and I would be happy to see stipends disappear entirely, but that's something that nobody else seems to be willing to jump on, and that's fine. The other thing is, I know that it's easy to say, hey, we're paying the administrators and the bureaucrats too much, how we don't actually need this apparatus, but the things that these people are actually required to do require a certain level of expertise that not every graduate student has. And so, for instance, I couldn't run a website administration, I couldn't do that at all. And so, to ask the executive board, or the EVP to take that on, or whomever, just on the strength of their election, would just either mean a poorly functioning website or having to hire somebody else to do it anyway. So that's what I would like to say on that. I'm okay with maybe adjusting these, but I'm not okay with removing these positions because they're really important. Okay, now I think it's Jay's head, and then it'll be Jim, Marquez, Storm, and then Jasmine. Okay.
Yeah, a couple questions. First is, I'm not sure how many other colleges this applies to, but speaking from College of Medicine's perspective, if somebody from the College of Medicine were to get elected to one of the GA-ship positions, what happens to the GA-ship money since we don't get GA-ships?
You don't get tuition remission.
So essentially, we don't get paid the same amount that everybody else would.
You would just get the stipend from whatever.
Yeah.
And that's,
You would
I,
actually
and
get
I
the
believe
stipend.
that's true of all professional
Yes.
schools.
So then my argument would be if a professional student who has the same workload as any other graduate student would be expected to work for that same amount of money, we should at least expect that of everybody.
Okay.
Or you don't run.
No, I'm saying for everyone else.
Yeah.
Like if you would expect someone in a professional school to work for a certain amount of money. I'm for getting rid of stipends too, but I'm saying like if you expect someone from professional school to work for that amount of money, we should expect that everybody would be willing to work for that amount of money.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
Jim.
So on the issue of the salaries for travel grant, for different directors, travel grants, and so on and so forth, whether that comes out of the money, the SSFAB money or wherever, that depends on the actual proposal that is put in and approved.
It's in the SSFAB proposal, both of those are. We
Okay.
cover the G. Well, actually, basically the way the proposals work is they propose what they're gonna cover, and then we say, this is how much money you're getting, and then they say, okay, so if there's enough money for a GA, then they can cover the GA, and then that just cuts some of the other money they have available. But as they're written, and I think that our administrators would honor the original proposal and say we will cover the GA, and then whatever's left over is what we have left to spend.
My question is, so right now, like for travel grants, we're paying travel grant director salary based on the SSFAB application.
Yeah.
We're paying travel grants director salary from the travel grant money we're getting from SSFAB.
Correct. And same for REAP.
The other thing I was going to raise as a potential issue here. So we're talking about, I guess Judith just cutting maybe getting rid of one of the vice presidents. Is that you?
The initial plan was to get rid of one of the vice presidents, but we're too late in the game to do that right now because election packets are out already. So the proposal on the table now is to get away or remove the GA chief from those two positions and pay them a stipend like we've done historically in the past. Last year was the first time that we started paying GA, giving GA chief to VPs for the first time.
Yeah, but as I said, I would think some people have chosen to run for VPSC vice president because they want to get a GA shift.
That in itself is problematic. The
Well,
people are running because they
well,
want
yes.
to get GA chief.
Yes, I know,
It's a
but
problem
I
in
mean,
itself. But I don't think we've had any information online that says that EVP positions, GA position, that information is not online. We
Well,
shared that to them later. So unless it's someone in this council who has chosen to run because they want to get GA shape, and I don't know how that's going to benefit grad students.
I know for a fact that some of the people who ran against Danielle are running again specifically. I know one person. I know one person specifically because they're not sure they're going to get their GA shift next year, and they're thinking, hey, I'm going to get my GA shift.
This does not sound relevant.
So my point is, can we change the rules now on this? On the eve of election, can we actually change it?
Absolutely, change how much they're paid. Yes, we can do that because that information has not
We're
changed.
actually obligated to vote on approving this
Stipend
before
from
they,
the state.
before they're elected, so we have to actually, either we have to decide to keep it as the same or change it, but we have to do one or the other. Right, still,
I think.
more questions?
No, because I'm moving to close the debate and make some cuts, but if you guys have some things to say.
One quick thing and then
Yeah.
I'll see. I agree with what Tori had to say. It would be nice. Oh, did I cut somebody else?
No, yeah.
Okay.
I agree with Tori. I think it'd be nice if we could hear individually just something brief from the people that we're considering making modifications, the current people who are holding positions that we're considering modification of their compensation structure.
The problem is not everybody's here. So if we do want to change events director and take that down to a stipend, which I think is actually a great idea, if we're going to take the other GAs down to a stipend, the AVP, EVP, and events director, I think should also be included in that because I'm not saying that Kevin doesn't do his job, but I'm also saying that we know that, I think that's a fair argument, it's not as big of a budget, right? For, as this budget is. So, my point though is not everybody's a part, sorry.
Oh, I get that. I guess my perspective is I understand that this is difficult. I understand it's time consuming to get this information, but I think we still have enough time where we can take care of this at our next meeting, get the input we need, make sure we get the heads in the room, or at the very least we have them submit some sort of statement that is circulated beforehand. Perhaps I'm mistaken, but I feel like I understand it's difficult, but I think it's an important part. This is a significant amount of money, and we're making tough decisions. I think we should make tough, informed decisions. Additionally, I do want to say, I want to chime in, Daniel, when you were mentioning specific administrative positions that we think might seem bureaucratic. I definitely think that our travel grants administrator is a very important position, and I think Janelle has done a fantastic job. So I'll throw in my 2 cents for her, and then I'll see my time.
Okay, it'll be Jasmine, and Marquez wants to close the debate.
Okay. So regarding the AVP position, I've found things to spend time on, but I think there are a few easy ways to make it so this position doesn't need to take 20 hours a week. For example, there are a number of committee positions that we've historically said must be filled by either the president or a vice president, and honestly, that's not necessary. And so, like, I would not be on 4 committees if that were not a requirement. I think that there are probably some positions that could be collapsed into either the AVP position, the EVP position, to basically get more bang for our buck. However, as Jude said, I think it's a little too late to do that at this point. So I think the best thing we can do there is just maybe make recommendations for next year, but there's not time to have the discussion today, unfortunately. Regarding GA-ships, I understand that it looks like a lot of money for the different directors. However, having funding is pretty much, I want to say, like, the most dire request from a lot of our constituents. And so every GA position we can create that is a meaningful GA position, that's one extra student who can stay in school. And so I think that's not a decision to be taken lightly. Also, I think our GA positions are specialized enough, the 3 director positions, that they actually do provide very meaningful professional development for the right type of student. And so I would say, while it is a lot of money, it's actually money very well spent. And so I would advocate for keeping those. I also have a comment from Katie, who's on the live stream, who says that UA Online also you can't get tuition reimbursement for by default, just like professional schools. However, it seems to be a case-by-case basis thing. And so it is possible, although she can't say for sure, that maybe professional students could also, on a case-by-case basis, get tuition remission if they held a GA position.
Okay, Marquez.
Move to close debate.
Yep, move to close debate. Second. Awesome. So let's actually start talking about cutting these things down.
I would move to table until we can get the additional information that Storm is mentioning.
I would just say that if you're worried about cutting these positions, there are other things we can focus on if we want to leave those alone for the moment.
And then we can just say everybody needs that's in one of these positions send their statement by Friday at 5.
That seems legitimate.
Point of clarification, this is both staff and the EB?
I don't want to spend extra time making the staff tell us what they do and stuff, but I mean, I wouldn't advocate for that. Anybody else? Throw in something?
So then I move to reduce all of the stipend-based EV positions to 2,000 instead of 3,000.
Okay. That motion. Second. So a motion to take all EB, the treasurer, signature, secretary, social security down to $2,000 each. Can I have a second on the table?
Second.
I think I made a motion to table until we can get more information on that.
There wasn't a second, so.
I'll second it.
It's past the point.
I'm sorry. I
Past the point.
I thought both of us talking was the
You don't discuss the tabling.
You have to.
Okay.
You have to
Okay.
second. So I have a motion to reduce it to from $3,000 to $2,000 each. Can I get anyone want to say anything about that? Can we just vote?
Well, yeah, I mean, certainly, well, unfortunately, our secretary's not here, so she can't talk about how much work she has done. I know it's.
She's on Skype, isn't she?
Yeah, she is, but Skype, yeah, it looks looks like she stepped away for a minute, but hopefully she'll come back here. Certainly, I know, sorry, Gary?
Jim,
Pardon?
can we?
I'm a
I know
full-time
that
student, I'm busy.
as treasurer, I certainly do a lot more work than I'm getting paid for, and I know Maria does as well. You know, it's frankly going to be difficult to get somebody going. And again, we ran unopposed. This wasn't something a lot of people wanted to do at $3,000 a year. I believe that our social chair was also unopposed. So to cut this back by a third, without even hearing what anybody does or hearing what the jobs entail, seems a bit drastic. Maria's not back yet, but as soon as she comes back, she may say something.
So, Alan, you had yours up. Jude, did you have yours up? Okay, Alan, and then I'll go.
I just want to say the initial proposal to kind of get a list of what you do, what's within your scope, what's not within the scope, what do you take on that's not actually in your job responsibility. I brought that to the table in January, and the idea was to get kind of an hour by hour breakdown of where roles are lacking. So where there's something that maybe Jasmine's picked up but isn't actually in anyone's official capacity that maybe it ought to be added, but also so that we could do an actual cost analysis of what people's time is worth. Because sure, some of us might not feel like you want to run for a position just for a GA-ship or just for the stipend, but others, you might not take an RA position, or you might be skipping on a job to be doing this. And so I think some of us do believe that the money is important. So I think that doing an hour by hour breakdown so we can really have that information is super important. I don't know, because the stipend is on the table, I don't know, I think it's important to know how much time are you actually spending on GPSC, and we can talk, and we can think about do you feel like you'd be compensated enough for that amount?
Okay, well, quick and dirty is 8 hours of meeting a month for 9 months, which is 72 hours. So $3,000 divided by 72.
Well, you can do that in a little.
You can, it's magical. But okay, so for meeting time, I get paid $41 an hour. I actually command $50 an hour on a contract basis. So automatically I'm getting paid less than I'm actually worth, frankly. But that's only if I don't include the time that I spend putting together agendas, answering emails, actually functioning as the head of a committee, all of these other, going to Phoenix. I didn't get paid for that.
Twice a month.
Yeah, pretty much. And so my point is, so if we even assume that it's twice, it's $20.50 a thing. $20, that's ludicrously low, okay? And that's not including all the excess, all the extra committees that I'm doing as part of just being a member of GPSC, where people are like, hey, you're on this, come do this thing. Run this event for us, you need a table here. Make this phone call for me. Jude needs help drafting a press release, all of this other stuff. So ultimately, my point being is that I'm getting paid significantly less with $3,000 than I'm actually worth. And that's fine, because I volunteered and jumped into this because I believe in, I'm also fulfilling my service requirements as a graduate student. I'm also actually advocating for things that I care about and passionate about it. If you guys did your $450 per the hours, you guys are making significantly less than just minimum wage in general. So the point that I'm trying to get to is that we're already being paid well less than we're actually obligated. So we actually ought to be being paid. But that's because we're doing this essentially on volunteer. And so reducing that down to $2,000, yeah, it does reduce the amount of money I'm getting paid even further. But the point of that is that we don't have the money to be paying this much even so. And we need to be cutting from somewhere, and this is the simplest and easy thing to cut from. And it's not as if they can't, next year it's proven to be ineffective, they can always raise it back up again.
Can I just respond?
Yeah.
I mean, I know that we're not going to be paid our work rate because we
But some of us have to
but because then we'd be making it $1 million an hour. No, but what I am saying is I just want to make sure that we don't devalue it so that people feel like they've
either gotten themselves into something that they don't have time for or that they don't feel is worth it when, like, I mean, it's kind of a joke to be getting paid $2 an hour to be here with a stipend. Like, is that really a stipend? So I'm just,
This is the basis.
Conversation.
This is the basis of my argument for getting rid of it entirely. It's saying we're getting paid laughably small amounts of money. So at what point is it saying, oh, you're not actually worth minimum wage, which is essentially what this does. Okay, now I was talking, so I missed it, but I think Dustin and Jim, and then Maria, and then Danielle, and Jude. Dustin.
Oh, I'm next? Okay, so, first thing, I have a question. So if you go back to the seconds for the budget, you said representative 34, how's that number coming from?
That's the number of slots open, and we don't actually have 34 full ones. I actually might have 34 full ones now. It's the number based on how many electoral colleges, et cetera, there are, and it actually has probably changed. We have to check with the elections director to find out.
It's 40 now.
It's 40? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's just
Based
great.
on the number of-
Fabulous. So if we get 40, yeah, we should change that.
So, anyways, so I was gonna also say that I'm for cutting the stipend just because I think this puts more pressure on more work. We should put more work on the reps, as I think a lot of reps, I don't wanna say they don't carry their own weight, but I think that we can distribute the workload better.
Okay.
That's all.
Cool. Jim or Maria?
Okay, Maria, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So basically, I wanted to say that, I mean, $3,000 can make a difference for some people. I think cutting $1,000 per position in general saves very little, and it's just practical if we just try to cut down those amounts. I mean, people, first of all, people don't run for the money, but in general, if you're doing the job, you would expect, and it is, you know, a position to represent people who are doing the job, you expect to get paid, so people expect to get paid. And definitely that amount of money, it won't save much, but it will not make the organization as productive as it can be. And those amounts do make a difference for a lot of people. I think there's plenty of work that people do in those positions. It's honestly, I have a PhD and my work as a secretary takes more time than all my day shifts combined sometimes, which is 20 hours total. So I sometimes have to work over that amount as a secretary. And let's say it was a complete, I mean, I'd be glad to do that as a voluntary position, but not for that amount of hours. And of course, if I wouldn't work as many hours, the amount of work I do wouldn't get done. So I think cutting down those sessions is not going to help us much at all. It's just going to hurt us as an organization in the long run. Thank you.
Thanks, Maria. Danielle?
Yeah, I have a compromise since we can't recombine AVP and EVP, but I still would argue against cutting the GA-ship completely. What if we did a quarter time instead of a half time? Because then it covers half of the tuition instead of the complete tuition.
Megan, do you have any idea how much that would take down to?
Do we have, is that a possible thing?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't even know if that's a possible thing, but.
It might be possible, but here's another part to that. It's you're automatically requiring them to work 10 hours a week. And when they want to do more, it's not allowed on the employment ground that you hire someone for 10 hours and make them work more than that.
So with the stipends, would we require that they work 20 hours a week then? How does that work?
With stipends, you're not paying people
By the hour.
basically. It's just a compensation for what you do. And like we've all pointed out already, representatives and other EB members do work more than what they get paid. The big issue we have right now is that we have a significant deficit, which is 77,000. I've looked at the math again. That's a lot. And we have to find somewhere to get that money from. Otherwise, there's nothing we can do about it right now. We have to find that money from somewhere. And that's a big issue. It's not whether or not we empathize with having a G or not. It's
So,
finding that money.
then what I would recommend is cutting AVP, EVP, and events director to stipend for 1,000 in the summer and 3,000 in fall and spring.
Okay, so we already had a motion on the table.
Yeah, we need to be back on, the executive board
Yeah, but we've
members.
been talking
Yeah.
about cutting, so
Yeah,
that's.
so, well, keep that in mind as a thing, but we need to be focused on this executive board stuff. It's gonna be Jasmine, Austin, Ellen, Jim. We're gonna if we're talking about EB, it's Jasmine, Austin, you're putting your name down, and then Jim.
I'd like to call the question on the motion that was on the table regarding the EB stipends.
Okay, so calling the question, is there a second?
Alright, so let's have a vote.
So
I
is this-
second.
we objected to it, so raise your placard if you would like to call the question to vote on, this motion. Is that, so we're just voting to vote right now. So I had 2, 4, 7, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 ayes, any nays? 4 nays, any abstentions? Okay, so, raising the motion on the table is to reduce treasurer, assembly chair, secretary, treasurer chair from $3,000 to $2,000 stipends. Can I get placards up?
Second. Do we need to second and
No,
vote?
we don't, 'cause it's already seconded. Can I get ayes? So, 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 ayes. Any nays? Okay, 2 nays. Any abstentions? 3 abstentions. Great. Alright, so, done.
Now, can I make my motion
Yes.
to, do stipends for AVP, EVP, and
Events director.
I would like to call the question.
I'd like
We
to
can't call a question,
amend, Daniel, if I can make a friendly amendment to your motion.
Yeah.
The events director is not an elected person. We hire them as a staff. I think it's only fair that if you want to bring it down to a compensation level, it should be same with the other positions we have, the other administrative position where we pay them hourly rates. So we look at the hours they put in a week and pay them according to that, rather than just give them a flat stipend.
But what would the cap be then for the flat
The
stipend?
cap can be like 10,000 or 7,000 or whatever. It's
I just don't think that that cap should be more than the vice president's. I know that I run myself pretty ragged usually doing the GA work for this
again,
and
it can be
also.
7,000, 10,000.
But I'm just saying, like, I think that somebody on the executive board should be, if we're doing stipends, that
Okay,
an elected
so
executive
it
board
sounds
positions.
like, okay.
But I accept that friendly amendment.
Alright,
We can
so
decide
that
later.
would be, so now the amendment or the motion on the table is to reduce AVP, EVP to a $7,000 stipend and move events director into the staff at $7,000.
Yeah, would you type that by the events, that way everybody can see it?
Yeah.
Move to staff and then, we can decide on the amount later, but move to staff and pay hourly rate.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, now further discussion, Adam.
So I had never considered the fact that the GA-ship positions are useless to most professional students, which we are the Graduate and Professional Student Council. Have we looked into the possibility of having it just be a stipend with money, like congruent with the average, whatever the GA-ship would be or whatever, but I mean, it seems like I wouldn't ever consider running for president if I literally would be working 40 hours a week for no, I mean, like, does that, so anyways, like it's
Jasmine,
just
do you have an answer to that?
I kind of have an answer. I believe there are employment concerns for international students in that case, but I really hope Megan can weigh in a little more clearly.
Right.
No, if instead of a GA ship, it was a 20-hour-a-week stipend position only.
So
As
here's
far as
the
I
thing.
know, international, and I believe
So,
you know,
yeah,
they can only
the-
work 20 hours max.
That is right. If you're paid an hourly rate, if you receive it as a compensation, like we do with EB members, it does not count.
And I don't think you
It
can
just
have
goes-
another job.
You can have another job and receive a compensation from GPSC. You can have a 20 hours job and receive a compensation. But once you're paid an hourly rate, it becomes problematic because then it counts into your 20 hours maximum. That
Correct.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Alright, so just to clarify what's going on, if we put it as stipend, as you're saying, it wouldn't actually affect international students.
If we
working-
what?
If we made it just a stipend, not attached
For which
to
of the
hours,
positions
for
then?
president or whatever.
Yeah,
For
it will not, then
presidents.
it will not affect the
Okay.
any
If it's
So-
just a stipend,
Okay.
it will not affect international
Okay.
students, but
Well, great.
the 100% revenue
let's-
statements.
Okay, so that's not the problem. The problem that I answer to that question is that graduate students and professional students have two different funding models, and so the nature of the beast is essentially that law students have to pay through loans and we have to pay through GA-ships. And I totally understand where you're coming from saying I would never run for president, but I can't remember where I was going with this. The conflict is the fact that the graduate student and professional students are considered to be distinct in this manner. So it's the university saying professional students can't get GA ships.
No,
And yeah, so that's the reason why it's this way. And so we have considered looking into it, and we've just maintained it this way because what ends up happening if a professional student has that job is they just get a lump stipend that's not the $30,000, but it's whatever they would get paid minus tuition remission. I mean, we could change it, but that's about university policy rather than stuff that we're doing. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Okay.
but what I'm suggesting is removing the GA ship from the equation, which there are no university policies on
Right.
professional students being paid stipends or
Yeah.
money, and it doesn't, so that's what I'm suggesting, because right now the model is like, the compensation model includes that GA ship in the description of duties and the anticipated amount of time, and that is closed off from professional students, which seems odd because we are the GPSC.
We're in the
Yes,
title.
I would just say that as watching Jude basically have a meltdown every week, the president is a full-time job, and so what ends up happening if you remove the GA ship is that someone like me would have to teach 2 classes on top of being president in order to afford to go to school.
No.
So that's the problem with removing the GA ship.
No,
is
I'm
that-
actually, my proposal would be not remove it,
But
like,
factored in.
factored into the stipend.
So have
Oh,
a
I
$30,000
wanna-
stipend.
So
I
like
want to
I'm,
respond to that real quick, because if I understand correctly, being a half-time GA brings your tuition down to in-state level.
It
then
covers
you
it
can-
completely.
it brings it down to in-state level, then you can cover it through that $8,000. Otherwise, it would have been $15,000 if you're out of state.
Okay, so what you're saying is why can't we just give a lump sum of $30,000 to, I think it's because, I think, and I'm not sure, I think it's because the tuition remission doesn't actually cost us the amount of money, and it costs us
no,
less.
that's, yeah, no, I
So-
mean, but
so-
there's gotta be something that would be, it just seems odd that a professional student having the position is compensated less than a graduate student having the position.
I agree, I can see where you're coming from. I would say we definitely can't get to $30,000 just because of,
I'm just
asking for-
looking at
yeah.
it, like with that
But,
kind of ethical question in mind.
yeah, but that's why I got it. Is there anybody else who wanted to respond to that?
I'm a little bit confused by this argument, honestly.
This is a question more than anything else.
What the GA positions earn is actually not 30,000. Right now it's 13,000. Every other thing you see there, it's for tuition.
Yeah, that's not
someone.
that's not the thing in question, Jude. The thing in question is that Ellen could theoretically get a tuition remission as president, so she'd still have to pay her tuition, whereas I don't have to pay tuition if I become president.
So our compensation would be different for having the exact
Yeah.
same job,
I
the
see
exact
what
same
you're saying.
description, simply because of the degree we're pursuing.
Yes. So I'm gonna say that this is a thing that we can't resolve in the next 10 minutes.
No.
And so it's something that we need to definitely consider as we go forward with this. But is there anything else is everyone clear on what Ellen's general objection is? And I think the med school, like that's what Jay said was talking about 20 minutes ago. Anything else on this?
Could you remind us what the
Okay,
motion is
so
on the table?
there's a motion on the table and it's not been seconded yet, but right now the motion, as I understand it, is removing the GA ships from the administrative vice president and events director, bringing the AVP and EVP down to $7,000 stipend fully, and then the events director moves into staff at an hourly rate of $15 up to X dollars, which we haven't determined yet.
Did you say AVP and EVP?
Right. Yeah.
So
So that's what's on the table.
And what was going on with the Friday at 5 p.m. People give us a description. That's something that's not happening.
Oh.
No, because that
We-
we already
not
voted
gonna
to
happen.
not.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'll I can still run it through you, but like, eh.
Well, it's not
So-
voting on it now, it's only
Okay.
after the fact.
So,
I'd
Jim.
like to second the motion as stated.
Okay, so the motion second is stated. Jim.
Yeah, so I just wanted to point out, to give folks a little perspective that, perhaps we're making a mistake by focusing on saving money by taking money away from people, when there's actually lots of other ways to save money, like not buying as much paper, or having a great event and spending less money on it than we've done in many years past. So our organization is basically made up of people. So it just seems like, you know, when we're taking money away from people, we're sort of devaluing ourselves and our future replacements. Maybe that's the wrong place for us to be looking to save money.
Austin.
Yeah, kind of to go back to that. First place we should probably be cutting from is rather than cutting from events that we'd be holding for our constituents, we should probably cut from our own funding. I completely agree with Daniel's idea that it should be a volunteer base. You should do this because you want to, not because you're getting paid to do it. But the thing is, that's not realistic, understandable. Everyone is busy and wants to be compensated for their time. At the same time, the first place we should look to cut, and we have $75,000, as I understand it, in deficit we need to cover. We shouldn't take $75,000 from our events budget, from our operating budget, whatever it is, we should cut that for our salaries first. If that means cutting down on GA ships or whatever it means, that should be done first, you know? So just the thing that we should consider, we should probably, ethically, we're responsible to probably take a look at ourselves first, cut what we got. You came here for a reason, you wanted to volunteer to be on this, not because you're getting paid to do it, because you wanted to help your constituents, theoretically. So do that first, and then we'll find the money later in the budget to cut there.
So you're seconding my motion then?
Yeah.
With that
Wholeheartedly.
said, with that said, can
It's
I
been,
call the
it's
question?
actually been seconded.
Oh.
So
I'd like to call the question.
call the question. I second. So, can I get,
I move to table,
move to table, why?
because I feel like we're rushing through a decision that we have not adequately
Yeah, I'll second that.
discussed. Like, I have been getting information from Kevin to pass on to you guys, because he couldn't be at this meeting, but he would like to express what he's been doing, and we're not even gonna hear that.
Okay, can I amend that motion? If the problem is with this event director, that's
Yes.
the position we hire, we can table that particular discussion and do that with EVPs and AVPs because the election packets are out. People who are running should know what
That
they're
is,
running for.
okay.
So we can
Okay,
table that
sure.
for event director and come back
Then
to it
can
next
we
meeting.
change the motion to only discuss AVP and EVP?
So everything
Vote to
remains.
change the motion.
Yes, we would have to
We have to vote to
consider
change
it.
the motion to remove Kevin's thing. So,
I just feel like that's not fair because
I,
you
Danielle.
didn't get that information from the treasurer and everybody else.
We've actually heard from people who have been secretary, who've been assembly chair, who've been
Danielle.
treasurer, and
We'll come back to the investor. Let's just move on.
I think, like, we have a motion on the table to amend this motion to remove the events director bid, and I would advocate for that, just so we can, right now, say AVP and EVP are less money, and then we can at least slowly move on from there. So I'm gonna second that motion to amend the motion. So,
Can we leave the text there though, so we will not
Yes.
come back?
Absolutely.
so now the motion on the table is, we have to vote to change the motion. So everyone pay attention, because this gets really complicated. We're gonna vote to change the motion to just, to remove the bits about the event director, so that what we're doing now is reducing AVP and EVP from GA ships to $7,000 total stipends. Is everyone clear on this? Are there any questions about this? Okay, so if you want to vote to accept those changes to the motion, please raise your placards now. So that's 4, 7, 10, 12, 13, 14. Ayes, nays, 2, 4 nays, any abstentions? 2 abstentions. Okay, so now the motion is, now on the table, to reduce AVP and EVP from $30,000 GA ships to $7,000 stipends. Can I get ayes?
Second that.
So, discussion point.
We've been discussing this exact same thing for some period of
I
time.
second that and I call the question. We have an agenda to talk about.
And I agree. So,
No,
like, this
point
is
of
the,
information.
this better be an actual point of information.
It is. So Leah just informed me that she also knows of a second person besides the one I know who is running specifically to get the GA. So
Point of
whether
information, is it
folks-
too late to change whether or not you're running?
It is
No.
not.
They-
No.
if
Then they can
if they get elected, if they get elected, they can turn it down.
They can withdraw.
That's what I'm
They're not locked into a contract.
Okay, so,
That's that.
please raise your placards if you would like to reduce AVP and EVP to $7,000 stipends. So, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Any nays? 4 nays, any abstentions? All right, 3 abstentions.
Can we see the total now after you get that?
Yes. Okay, so, we're at $30,000-ish, still in the hole. So that's great job, everybody. I would now like to stop talking about the budget because we've been doing it for a while. Is there any objections to tabling this until the next?
When do we still have next week then
Yes,
to vote on it?
we have to finish voting this basically by next meeting, but yeah, I would like to table it. So I have a second. Is there any objections? Okay, great. Okay. The 545 course fee, Jude.
Can you put that up? So basically,
Try.
chemistry did propose a course fee for, and you're in chemistry, right? You can chime in if you want to, for the grad students. I have tried to stop that fee at the university level, but unfortunately, the university fee committee passed it. I've spoken to the provost and a few other persons. The next option we have right now, and I actually mentioned it to the ABOP president today as well during the meeting we had with Daniel. The next option we have now is to send a memo to ABOP. It's likely that they may still approve it, but the point is we would have at least put it out there that course fees are becoming a problem for grad students. And if you are taking time to read the memo, you would understand some of the arguments, which is that one, course fee and mandatory fees are required to be paid out of your compensation as a grad student if you have a GA. And departments are, in my opinion, are just using that as a way to get this money back from their students, and I think it's unfair. And like we discussed at Faculty Senate Executive today, some departments are actually beginning to double dip on that, in the sense that that money is already kind of cut out from the additional funds they get for teaching specialized courses, and then they also charge students another fee for those same specialized courses, which is problematic. So the motion is to approve this, and I'll send it out to ABLE members tomorrow morning.
Okay, so if anyone's not clear, that's a $140 required fee for a required course in organic chemistry for chemistry graduate students. Jude is opposing it. Jude, is there a reason why you're not sending it to the Wildcat or someone?
I don't think they would make any. ABLE is the one that would make the votes, that would cast the vote, so there's no point making that.
Okay.
I don't think we're going to that point yet.
Okay, Jim and then Jared.
So, of all the, I mean, why this course fee over so many other course fees?
Because this is the only, to my understanding, this is the only new course fee that was proposed this year. Other course fees have been approved in the past. I do not want to go back and start fighting all of that right now. This was a new course fee that was proposed this year. And I think it's time that GPSC start taking that stance. And another part of it is, specifically, the fee itself, it's just too high. That's how I feel about it. $140 is too high for a particular course.
So do we have somebody right now sitting on the fees?
I am in that committee.
And this is the only thing, when I was on that committee, they were doing every 2 weeks, 3 or 4 fees. This is the only one they've done this year?
We've approved like 40-something course fees so far. Most of them are for undergrads.
40 something?
Yeah, more than
I
that.
thought you just said this was the first one.
That applies to grad students.
Ah, I see. Do you propose that we do what? Just like write a letter saying?
A memo to ABLE.
We're asking them to not approve the $140 course fee, basically.
Can we hear from Matt? He's in chemistry.
Jared was first. Jared, you mind?
I'll say Matt to go first since he's more relevant.
Matt.
So.
So I took this course, and I think it's only been around for about 5 years. And honestly, if there was a fee, I would totally understand why, because the instrument time that it takes. For instance, cost of my group $10 to $20 an hour, and we should probably spend 40 to 50 hours per student in that class on the instrument. With that being said, the class has been thriving for 5 years as well.
Class has been what?
It's been thriving for 5 years without a fee. So I don't see why they want one now versus when they started the class.
Okay. Jerry?
I think what you both said sort of summarized what I was going to say, but in an effort to summarize it further, is there a reason to have this fee? Yes. Do undergrads have similar fees to this? Yes. Like I took organic chem, which is required for my major, and it had a fee. General chemistry had a fee. Biology had a fee. They all have fees. But so my initial concern was like, okay, why this one? Like Jim brought up, but like you said, Jude, that okay, we can't. The first step to rolling back fees that we think I think we all are in agreement with are unfair that we pay. The first step to roll those back is to stop new ones from coming in. So this is an actionable item we can do. So I think that we should support pushing back on this, if for no other reason.
I have a problem with them moving from apparently a 0 fee to 140 fee between years. That seems drastically insane. So even though I agree that chemistry is expensive, that's the expense that the university ought to be paying for, not students.
Is that the max, 140?
I don't know.
Is that what?
Is it the maximum amount? Is that the amount that
I
they're
thought
saying?
$100 is the maximum amount.
That's not the maximum amount, but that's the amount they proposed. I initially asked them to reduce it. They refused. So I told them I was going to oppose it entirely if they don't reduce it. And that's where we are right now.
Okay.
Okay.
Justin.
So I think that's a good argument to make. The thing is that letter doesn't make that argument, and I think we should probably revise that to make that argument that it's been around for 5 years and that this $140 increase isn't necessary. Because that argument basically says we're getting money back. What you said, we're getting money back from kids, and not talking about the course
So,
itself.
paragraph on the fact that it hasn't, on what Matt's talking about, it's been 5 years with no fee. And
Max,
now,
would you be willing to provide that revision?
Yeah, I can help like that. So if I can make a quick comment on that. So they're further down, I believe, they talk about our NMR facility, which is where all this fee is coming from, is potentially being merged with a core facility, which will be managed by the university instead of the chemistry department. So I think that's why they want to propose the fee is because they're worried that they're not going to be able to just waive the cost that the students are incurring towards the NMR facility. So I think that is slightly addressed in here. But also it's kind of up in the air, which I think Jude, you kind of alluded to in the end of this letter, that they're not sure if it's actually going to happen, and I have not heard once, and I use this facility all the time, that it's going to be merged with any larger facility in the university.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think that's a fair argument for them to make, but unfortunately, according to what the departmental head said, there are so many unknowns, and it's proposing a fee on a class that with that unknown, so he doesn't even know if the students will have to pay that because of the major thing. My proposal is that they can revisit this fee when there's a clear-cut reason for it. Right now there isn't one, and I think people should not propose class fees just based on unknowns. That's my point.
I just want to say that not having a fee and waiting 5 years, then adding a fee doesn't actually imply that that fee wasn't needed. It could imply the exact opposite, that they've been incurring costs that have gone unknown, and maybe now they need to double dip because they're in a deficit because the class itself costs too much to run. And so I think it's if we don't have more information than what's in this letter, then it's not our job to try to price out how much these courses cost. In my opinion, is to defer to those who are running the budgets on these classes. But that being said, I don't have classes that have fees beyond $600 textbooks.
Can I respond to that?
Jasmine will be first. And then Jude.
Yeah, I do understand that it's entirely possible that it is expensive to run this particular course because of the equipment and machine time involved. My actual major concern is that it is a mandatory course, which means that everyone's going to have to pay this fee, everyone's gonna have to pay this fee. I would argue that in the interest of transparency, if it's gonna be a mandatory course fee, it better be a program fee instead, so everyone knows going into it that it's gonna be $140 just to be a chemistry student here. Instead of have this hidden fee that hits you as soon as you enroll in your mandatory classes. I realize that's a little orthogonal to what we've been discussing, but that would be my take on the situation.
Jude and then Jim and then Matt.
I think she already hit the nail on the head, and I agree with you, Elaine. I'm not disputing that the fact that you raised that it's possible that they are running into deficit right now and they need it. But unfortunately, they've not provided any information. Myself and Mikey from ASU did meet with Senior Vice Provost on this, and we did ask for that budget information to understand why they need this now. And as you can see from the response from the departmental head, he did not provide that. Instead, he argued that he does not have enough time to provide it or wants to get the fee approved immediately. And I think that's problematic. So again, I'd say once they have that clarified why there is a need for it, they can repropose the fee. Right now, they don't have that, and that's why I still stand on reopposing the fee.
It'll be Jim, and then I will go. Oh, sorry, Matt will go, and then I will go.
So Maya?
Yeah, Jim.
Yeah, so, for the sake of saving time, I want to propose, make a motion that we write the letter and just do this. I will say, I think it's very unlikely that ABOR is going to pay any attention to our letter. I don't think they've ever failed to approve a course fee that was proposed. But I'm not saying we shouldn't write the letter. Let's write the letter, but let's vote to do that and move on.
Matt.
That's a mission second.
Okay. Matt.
I just was gonna say that it cannot be a program fee, I don't believe, because it's, only certain chemistry students take that course.
Alright.
I would like to call the question and vote. Target, sorry,
Yeah,
just quick.
I'm just curious, how did you find out about this? And were there some chemistry students that got together? And
I
I'm
am
all
in
for fighting
the
fees when we
fees
can.
committee, and when this was proposed, I did speak to chemistry representatives, and the person I spoke to other students as well, and provided his feedback. Actually, he was in the council, and you would have seen that comment there as well.
If it's quick.
Oh, I was just gonna say, if we think that this is like a general fight against added fees without background, then the letter should be framed in more of a, when you want to add a fee on a course, you need to give us more information. Frame it less in a Chem 545 and more in a, we're opposed to
So,
mandatory fees.
I've heard two suggestions for changes. One is which we say, okay, it's not okay for you to, or emphasize it's not okay for them to add course fees without actual basis. And the other one's from Matt saying this is, or from me and Matt saying that this is actually a pretty big jump from 0 to 140. And if we can make those changes, I think that we should send this letter. Does that make sense for everybody? I'm calling the question.
And to add to that, please, those recommended those changes, please, you provide us
Can everybody just write up a little paragraph?
paragraph.
Give Jude some words. All right, calling the question. Is there any objection to that? Can I get ayes for approving this letter with a couple of changes? 5, 9, 13 ayes, any nays? Any abstentions? Looks like 6 abstentions. All right, cool. The REAP appeal.
Yeah, move the table, we probably couldn't be here today, so
All right, so
hopefully we can make it.
the table for the next meeting. All right, old business. The executive board bylaws amendments. Maria's not here, but
Well, I'm on governing docs, I believe I can.
yeah,
finish that.
let me see if I can find them. I think these are it. the ones you're thinking of, Jim? This is the ones you
Right,
sent
yeah,
out
so what
before the
we've
last
done,
meeting.
So we're trying to resolve this problem of allowing the treasurer a well-defined way to calculate stipends. And the basic idea is we want everybody to know how the stipend is calculated. Let everybody who calculates the stipend be able to reach the same conclusion with no ambiguity. So what we had done previously was we had modified sections 1 and 2. We made Article 1, Section 1, and Article 1, Section 2. This is a refresher word. Article 1 was talking about requirements that had to be met. Article 2 was talking about obligations that have to be fulfilled. Then Article 4 said it was contradictory. So to clean that up, what we did is we said, okay, Article 1, those are just responsibilities. They don't count into doing your stipend. Article 2 was you've got to go to meetings, you've got to serve on committees. That's what you need to do to get your stipend. Then we were going to proceed on now through the rest of these. However, at our last meeting, we got rid of Section 2. So last meeting, we just have now Article 1, Section 2 doesn't tell how to calculate stipends. It just says we're going to buy food and pay for parking. So at this point, there is no way, there's no definition of what you need to do to get your stipend. So we should probably.
That's not true, by the way, but.
Oh, sure, Jack.
Okay, well,
what is the
Jim,
definition?
it's not really relevant because you don't actually have a solution on this board. So are you withdrawing these amendments? Because I haven't had any new ones.
Well, let me hear what Jasmine has to say. If there is a way to do it, then.
Section 2, GPC representative compensation, Part C. At the end of fall and spring semester, all active representatives who have served for at least half of the semester will receive the full semester stipend payment. The end.
And if, as long as everyone is happy with active, sort of what's an active representative, if we didn't prove that part.
That's okay. Section 3. It shall be the duty of the treasurer to determine stipends based on the data provided by the secretary. If the treasurer cannot determine stipends, the administrative vice president will make the determination. There we go. It's all taken care of.
Well, actually, that doesn't define what active means.
That's okay. That means that I can define it for you.
So this is Jasmine's going to determine everybody's stipend.
Well, I think Jasmine's getting a job.
Okay,
so.
so for the record, Jasmine is smiling and nodding. But, so since there is apparently, now this is you guys' stipends, okay?
This is not your guys' stipends. This is the stipends for the people next year. I want to make that very clear.
You guys being representatives, I assume some of you are going to be representatives next year. If you get satisfied with that, we can move forward and under the assumption that we have a formula now for calculating stipends. If so, we can move forward with the rest of the amendments. Does everybody want to do that? Just show of hands, straw poll, get on move forward?
Straw polls are actually not allowed.
Does anyone want to move forward with these amendments?
Okay, so start.
No.
No.
Motion to table.
Second.
No. Any objections?
No.
Okay. Okay, the 2017-2018 rep stipends. All right, so as I've said multiple times, we are obligated to determine what that amount is because they can't decide their own stipends for next year. So, and we ought to do this by next meeting so that the people aren't in the room while we're telling them how much money they're going to be making. So does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
So is there any discussion about how this is going to work? Does anyone have any ideas for how much they should be paid?
$0.
Yeah. I think that's what I'm going to do. Jim, did you have something?
Yes, I will reiterate the motion we made last time, which is that we just maintain the structure the same.
Okay, so I have a motion to keep it the same.
Second.
There's a second. Okay, can I get ayes on keeping the rep stipends the same for next year?
Sorry.
I have 5.
Since this is actually kind of close, I'm going to wait for the
5.
live stream votes.
Hold on. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Marquez also
There's one from
wrote it. Marquez also wrote an absentee ballot. That's
3 from live stream.
So 3 from live stream. Okay, so 3 Okay, we're gonna keep it up, sorry. 3, 6,
No, this is a four.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, plus Mark Rose is 15. So 15 ayes, any nays, any abstentions? Okay, cool. Rep stipends for 2017, 2018 remaining $450. And that's the end of the agenda. I'm sorry that Jesse had to run, so she couldn't share anything else. Is there anybody else who has anything? Is there anyone who has any rep reports they would like to share? Now that we actually have time for them. We have 20 whole minutes. I know.
Heard good things back from the Noam Chomsky and the College of Education.
Great.
And a packed house, so yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking to that, I was actually able to go with another College of Medicine rep, and I was able to, I believe, Dustin, like 2 pharmacy people.
No, actually, the people didn't show up.
Oh, they didn't? Oh, well, we almost had that, so that's great. Some, again, some more North of Speedway people getting involved at the last minute, and I'd like to thank you for facilitating having that happen. Because when that email got sent out to get tickets, it was actually already all sold out. The nature of free events, right? But no, it was great, and I think you spoke very well. And the other College of Medicine person I went with gave me positive feedback, and they thanked me and GPSC for making that possible.
Anybody else?
Yeah,
Jasmine?
Sajan's got a report.
Sajan?
Sajan.
Yeah.
Yep. She heard good things about the student showcase from her constituents, and there were actually 2 winners from the College of Pharmacy.
I will also reiterate that one of my colleagues received money at the student showcase talking about Byron and text type scripts, and it was kind of amazing.
Got a report from Hannah.
Hannah.
She had a constituency meeting, and people expressed interest in a career fair that she's now, I don't know who we is in this case, but we are in the process of planning
Okay, sweet.
for the fall.
Jason.
Yeah, so Austin and I were at the Diversity Task Force meeting this morning, and we're actually going to be meeting with Dr. Trevino. He's the one who came and spoke to us. We have a meeting set up with him for in a couple weeks. So if anyone else who is interested in that or is part of the Diversity Task Force staff who's coming to the meeting today, happily would either allow you to come to the meeting or give us your suggestions of what you want brought up to him, and we would love to discuss that.
Awesome. Ella.
Well, Storm and I had our constituents meeting, but it was fine. But something I've been working on, which I'd actually be really interested in, it's not specifically through GPSC, but as a dual degree student, I've been working on getting more documents and more resources for dual degree students. Currently, there isn't even like a information sheet for there's the JDMPH is set, like it's approved, it's university approved, I'm allowed to do it without any extra paperwork, but nobody even knows who I can contact. And so it took me 10 meetings and 2 months to get my course set approved and to get all the questions I had answered. So I'm working on doing that and hoping to expand out to the JD MBA, but also hopefully some other, but anyways, I've been working on that. I've had 8 meetings throughout the 2 colleges, but if you're interested in.
Sweet. If you do end up with something assembling like an information sheet, I'm sure we'd love to have it on the website so that.
Yeah, so right now it's just through the College of Law, so
Okay.
they're gonna be public because they're the ones who have basically been willing to sit down with me and think about what we can provide. Ideally, we wanna provide sample course, course schedules, and just kind of make it easier for dual degree students because I think it's a great
Cool.
opportunity.
No, I think even if it is just the law school, having a version of that from colleges that is available for everybody to be like, oh, the law school does this, maybe we can do the same thing, would be very helpful. It's gonna be Jasmine and then Storm.
Okay. This one's coming from Josh Dudas, our new Kapla rep. He's actually not on the live stream. He just sent me an email. So he got a request from a constituent about GPSC providing assistance for Kapla students for LEED certification, LEED. I looked it over and it might fall under a POD, but it also might not because usually we give POD money for speakers and for events and not for offsetting the costs of a certification exam. So we can't discuss this right now, but if you think your constituents might be in a similar boat, this is certainly something we can bring up during the budget discussion that we're gonna have to continue next meeting. So if you think this is the sort of thing GPSC either should or should not be funding, I would say sleep on that or maybe ask your constituents before our next meeting. Also, a separate request related to the same thing was, if we can't offset the cost of the certifications, can we instead purchase reference guides for the students to look over as like a communal, like almost like a library thing? And that I know cannot be funded via POD because that would be academic materials for tutorial purposes. But again, think about whether we should have a funding item on our budget that could capture this sort of request.
I have a question.
Sure.
What type of certification is that, you know?
Sorry.
It's just a particular certification based on his degree.
According to the constituent, it would be of particular interest to planning students, and it would make them more attractive to employers and boost the college's image/ranking. I don't know if that gives you more information.
LEED certifications are for like making sustainable buildings and
Okay.
like environmentally friendly buildings.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Megan. Storm.
So as Ellen mentioned, we did have our constituency meeting. Wasn't well attended in my opinion, but it was at least people that I don't usually see or that I know are not usually utilizing GPSU's resources. On the law school campus, there's pretty much, I would say, a small collection of groups and students who are aware and consistently use the GPSU resources, so it was nice to see different faces in the room for us. We also did have a good gamut. We had a good spread of 1L, 2L, 3L, and an SJD in attendance, so that was nice. Other than that, that's all I've got. I would like to ask just a agenda item that we get the LEAP appeal on there if we can, and then I think that was it. The next agenda.
Sure. Anybody else? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
46. 15 whole minutes early. Love that, everyone.